Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be breaking down the winter storm threat from the Central Plains back through the Midwest for later this week. We'll also be going over the potential for severe weather in the southern half of the United States as we head into Wednesday and Thursday. I'll give you the latest breakdown on both of these situations and more in this forecast, but let's first begin with what's happening across the United States tonight, beginning with the Central Plains, where there's actually a small scale trough developing, which is expected to bring some rain, a little bit of snow, and also the potential for maybe an isolated severe weather threat. For right now, this is going to be pretty small scale, but it'll head into the Midwest tonight and into the overnight hours, bringing again some rain and even a little bit of snow. Back over on the East Coast, there is high pressure dominating down in Florida, but on the other hand, we do have a low pressure system actually far off the coast of the United States that is actually bringing some snow to areas in New England, which could actually bring upwards of 3 to 6 inches in some spots. So pretty remarkable snow there. For some of you in New England, this is the first snow that you've seen all year long, so definitely a different occurrence there. And over on the West Coast, nothing really new recently. The Pineapple Express is continuing. We continue to see more and more troughs coming off the coast. However, this will be coming into an end most likely later this week. So some good news there. Rain will likely be relieved as we head closer to next weekend. There are a lot of different watches and warnings ongoing across the United States. In fact, there are winter storm warnings back up in Maine, along with winter weather advisories. Now, more closely, I want you to pay attention a bit more closely to areas in Wisconsin as well as the Upper Michigan Peninsula. Those two areas right now are under winter weather advisories, along with portions of Minnesota. This is mainly due to the potential that we may see a few inches of snow going into tomorrow. There are also winter storm watches in effect for those in the Central Plains, and this is for the threat for a winter storm as we head into this upcoming week. And then we'll talk about more on that here in just a second, but let's first begin with that small scale trough over the next 48 hours, which there's not a whole lot of rain or anything like that out there right now. That'll all change though as we head into the overnight hours, when rain will start to really pick up and develop, and we may even see a little bit of freezing rain, which is why we do have that winter weather advisory in effect for northern Wisconsin overnight tonight into tomorrow. Eventually going closer to lunchtime tomorrow is when we'll begin to have a lot more rain, really scattered or really numerous, anywhere from Missouri all the way back through Wisconsin and even into Minnesota. And look a little bit closer out here into South Dakota. We'll have to watch this area on the northwest side of the trough pretty closely, because this could actually end up bringing some more wintry precipitation to those over in Minnesota. Not just that, it could even bring some ice to eastern South Dakota. Eventually going into the afternoon and evening hours, take a close look here from Illinois back through Wisconsin. There is a low chance for a brief or weak tornado embedded with one of these showers or storms that develop. Now, it shouldn't be that significant of a threat, but there may be a brief tornado up that direction. Don't rule it out by any means going into tomorrow late afternoon and maybe into the very early evening hours. And eventually, just after you eat dinner, probably around 8-9 o'clock tomorrow, is when there will be a lot more snow picking up back over in Minnesota. The potential for some light to moderate snow does exist. This trough will eventually move off to the east as we head into the morning hours Tuesday, with maybe a few flurries or very light rain showers remaining across the Midwest. Overall, though, the winter weather is going to really be focused in Minnesota for snow. There very well could be some ice, though, in a couple of locations. The main two areas will be in northern Minnesota and back where the other winter weather advisories are in effect for those in western and southwest Minnesota, back through eastern South Dakota. And that one area that may see some snow will be back over in Minnesota. Some areas near Minneapolis and the Twin Cities, maybe around a half an inch to an inch of snow if you're lucky. Otherwise, it might just be mostly rain there. And then a little bit further off to the north, we could see some snowfall totals get upwards of 2 to 4 inches, with maybe an isolated location seeing upwards of half a foot. Now, the bigger talk is the winter storm that is expected to begin on Wednesday in the Central Plains. So basically, this trough that's coming from the Pacific Ocean is going to start to move over the Rocky Mountains, and it's going to really start to intensify, bring the potential for a lot of snow and also some severe weather in the southern United States. So beginning with Wednesday morning is when heavy snow could begin in eastern Colorado back through Nebraska and northwest Kansas. Going into the afternoon and evening hours, that snow shifts off to the north and east. We're still talking about some moderate to heavy snow back over in Iowa and even into Nebraska, and eventually by going into Thursday, most of that snow activity will shift off to the north and east. Back up in the Midwest, going into late Wednesday into Thursday, that snow really starts to ramp up in Wisconsin and just north of Chicago. It doesn't seem like Chicago will see too much in terms of snow early on with this, but eventually going closer to the afternoon hours on Thursday is when there may be a brief transition transition for those in Chicago, but I don't expect much in terms of accumulation, at least at this time. We're kind of early on the forecast, but again, there might be a little bit, but it looks to be very minimal if you do see anything there in Chicago. But by Thursday night into Friday morning, some light snow maybe still ongoing back up in the northern tier of the Midwest, and going into Friday afternoon, there may be still a little bit of lake effect snow. Should remain very minimal though overall. Maybe an additional inch or two would be about it. So the computer models have become a lot more unified over the last few days in terms of where the heaviest of the snow will fall. European model currently indicating that this will be really primarily an event in northern Kansas back through Nebraska and Colorado, with western Iowa getting in on some of the fun with maybe upwards of half a foot to a foot of snow. But again, kind of early estimates as of now. This is not an official forecast, just kind of looking at the computer models here. Back through the Midwest, most of these areas as well, somewhere between about 4 to 12 inches in the peak of snowfall. Heaviest snowfall will likely fall back up in the upper Michigan Peninsula. Now, if you watched my last forecast, we had a little graphic here that showed the difference between the GFS and European model in terms of where the heaviest of the snow would fall. The GFS was way down here to the south, and the European was shooting way up to the north and east. But now they become much more unified. So here's the European model. It is still on a more northerly track, but it does bring the heaviest of the snow in this region here, which does include the green, by the way. That's where they're both kind of combined with where the heaviest of the snow will fall. GFS model still keeping it a bit further to the south, but again, we got a few days until this happens, so things will likely change as we do get a little bit closer. Now, let's discuss the severe weather potential heading into this week. It all begins with Wednesday. There is a slight risk for severe weather for those in southeast Texas, back through central portions of Mississippi. The low-level jet will not be the strongest that we've ever seen. Low-level jet between 35 to 50 knots at the peak. This does mean a moderate to slightly high end of the low spectrum of a low-level jet. That essentially means that the tornado threat will not be high like what we've seen in the past. It'll probably be on the lower side of things. Damaging winds does seem to be the biggest concern with the severe weather threat as we head into Wednesday. So beginning with Wednesday morning, showers and storms will develop in East Texas back through Arkansas, and eventually going closer to the afternoon and evening hours. We're going to be monitoring the potential for severe weather much more closely down over in areas like Louisiana, Mississippi, and East Texas, and eventually going closer to 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the evening. Storms will roll into eastern Louisiana as well as into Mississippi, where some of these could be severe. Damaging winds will likely be the main concern there. Going over into the Ohio Valley, really approaching late Wednesday night is when storms will likely still be ongoing from Kentucky all the way back through the lower Mississippi Valley. Back over in Indiana, there's a lot of yellow there. That's mostly just going to be heavy rain with maybe a few occasional rumbles of thunder. Eventually going closer to Thursday morning is when a lot of that storm activity shifts to the east. I wouldn't anticipate much in terms of severe weather heading into Thursday, unless there might be like a marginal threat in the southeast, but other than that, it should be a pretty low-end threat for severe weather beyond Wednesday. Thanks for watching. This forecast is brought to you by Platinum Contracting.